steps, but the thing is, they're not logically laid out anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've done it. I think this was the last step, but
Hopefully.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right. Well,
get to your questions.
Yeah, let's knock this out. So first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. For the folks that are joining us, this is Ron from New Record Day with Steve Guttenberg, the Audiophiliac. And what this is this is going to basically be episode number 1 of a series of me reaching out to different hi-fi YouTube reviewers and just asking them questions, extending the olive branch, if you will, getting to know them, finding out more about who they are and what they do. And that's what this is about. So today's episode, Steve Guttenberg. I met Steve for the very first time at Expona. And Steve, I thoroughly enjoyed my time chatting with you and getting to know you, and it was really cool to be able to meet you in person for the first time.
Well, same here. But
Yeah.
I, in a way, I'm honored to be the first, but I also feel like this is a test, right? Like you're going to work out all the kinks on me.
Unfortunately,
and then the ones you do after this are going to be a lot better.
Unfortunately for you, that is true. That is definitely true.
Okay.
So I appreciate it. So let's just jump right in. We have 10 questions that we're going to ask you. We're going to just go right with it. So,
all right.
So question number 1 that I have, and by the way, and I want to be very transparent about this. I did send these questions to Steve beforehand because I wanted to give him a chance to kind of gather his thoughts. I didn't want to go cowboy with this. So he knows what these questions are, and I wanted him to be able to kind of reflect and think about what it is that he wants to say. So,
Right. And remember, it's not a test. It's not like we're cheating.
No cheating, nothing like that. Nothing like that. So question number 1, and I genuinely want to know this because I know that you have a pretty good library of records. So my question for you is, somebody broke into your apartment, into your house, and they jacked all of your records. All of your LPs are gone. 33s, 45s, gone. You do not own one record. What is the first album that you would need to replace?
Well, it's funny because I think it's a fantastic question, but the idea of a thief robbing records is kind of weird because this would be like an audiophile music thief. I'd like to meet
Ron from New Record Day jacked all your records.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great interview, right? But anyway, the answer to your question is Thelonious Monk, big band, and quartet.
Okay. Beautiful.
I got to tell you why.
Okay.
Because that record was the beginning of me being a serious listener. And there was something about Monk's music that it's not supposed to be easy. It's not easy jazz. It's not easy listening jazz. But the playfulness of it really appealed to me. And I was maybe 12 years old. And it started me on a journey. That record, definitely.
Awesome.
I would need that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You started the YouTube gig about 1.5 years ago. What led to that decision?
Well, it is kind of a long and winding road because I have been on a bunch of CNET podcasts, but the one that's my favorite one, which no longer exists, unfortunately, was called the 404. Like an error message, kind of 404. And it was a comedy/tech talk show. And I was on it maybe 60 times in 10 years. And I just had fun doing it. Sometimes it was a video podcast, sometimes it was audio only, but it was a blast to do. And when that was sort of winding down, I said, I want my own. I want to do my own. And I was bugging the people at CNET to let me have one. And it was like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then I thought, if I just start my own YouTube channel and I make my own, they'll see what it is I'm trying to do. And rather than try to explain it, what it is, I just make them and then they get it, right? And then I realized, no, I don't need them to get it. I like doing this on my own. I don't really need CNET to be part of this thing. And that's it. I just really like doing it. I like being a guest on other people's. I enjoy doing the one with you at Expona. But to do it my own thing, my own way, and basically be free. Yeah. The freedom of it compared to being a writer. I've been writing about audio for 22 years. And when you're writing for other people, you're fitting into their format. It's never really you. So this is the first thing that I've ever done that I have total control over, and I can do whatever the hell I want. And that is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a really big thing for me. I mean, I guess if you're not in that situation, you might not quite understand what I'm saying, but
it's so true.
That's where it's coming from.
It's so true. Amen. I couldn't have said it better. I completely agree with you. All right. So next question. I get a lot of emails about, hey, Ron, what speaker should I buy? What speaker should I buy? And I always think that's kind of a weird question, but I can only imagine how many of those emails that you get. So look, here's the deal. I know that you probably don't love the idea of telling somebody what speaker they should buy. I think that they
don't like doing that.
Doing that, but let's kind of spin this way. I'm going to just shoot a bunch of different budgets at you, and I'm gonna ask you, what speaker would you buy? Not necessarily what others should buy, but what would you buy? So
that's really good the way you worded that, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
I like that.
Thank you. So,
but wait. You started with a $500 speaker?
Yes.
Right?
500 and
I
under.
want to start with a $50 speaker.
Okay. Here comes the date and stuff. Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. Cool.
And the first one is the Dayton Audio B652 Air.
Okay.
Which is around $50 a pair. And I'm a big fan of the non-Air version, but the Air for $50 or so, I reviewed it 6 or 8 months ago in the context of another system. And the highest compliment I can pay to any product I ever review is that I keep listening to it after I've written the review. That's as good as it ever gets, right? This speaker, I kept thinking, this is so good. Why am I still listening to this $50 speaker? I got other stuff to do. But I liked it. It drew me in. And it's just incredible for $50 or so.
Awesome. I'll have to order up a pair and check them out.
You should.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool. So since you went off road, do we have other steps before we get to 500?
No. We're going to go from 50 to 500.
You're like, and now Ron, $60, $70.
No, this isn't the multi-part series here.
Cool. So $500. What speaker are you buying?
$500, easy choice. The Klipsch RP600M.
Awesome.
$550 actually.
Awesome.
My speaker of the year for 2018.
Yep. I talked to Jill, and I'm hoping to get my grubby hands on a pair to check those out, because I'm definitely curious about those guys. So that's cool. If you had $1,000 to spend, what speaker are you buying?
The Zoo Dirty Weekend.
Dirty Weekend. Okay. Zoo Audio. Awesome. 20
and also in that same thing or so, they also ran would be the Magnapan 0.7.
Okay.
Panel.
Yeah, I was
$1,400, but it's close enough.
Close enough. Yep. Okay. Cool. Fair enough. Yeah, I love the 0.7 actually. $1,000.
The Golden Ear Triton. But I can't remember now. See, that one I didn't write down. What is the Triton? The skinniest little tower. Do you know what that is?
I should, and I'm drawing a blank, because I did review one of their towers, and it was a skinny little guy. It's how embarrassing is this?
I think it's like the 7. I think it's called the 7.
Okay.
And I think it's $1,400.
Yeah, those speakers really give you so much. It's like you want bandwidth, no problem. Like, you got it, and they're transparent as heck. So that's really cool. Yeah.
So I like those.
Okay, cool. Where are we at? $5,000. So $5,000.
We went to 5.
Oh wait, no, 2,500. Excuse me.
2,500.
2,500.
The Klipsch Heresy 3.
Heresy 3. That's the little guy of the Heritage line, right?
Yeah. It's a little. It's only 24 inches high.
Yeah.
But what's incredible about it is, first of all, I did a piece about it a couple of days ago. The original Heresy came out in 1957.
That's crazy.
Imagine. It's still in production.
That's
Never
awesome.
went out of production.
Yeah.
It's a 3-way speaker with a compression horn tweeter, compression mid-range. Now, there's a lot of speakers with some version of horn tweeters, but compression mid-range?
Yeah.
Not for $2,500.
Right.
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's great.
Awesome. $5,000.
Harbeth M, which stands for monitor, 30.2.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry.
No problem. $10,000. We're moving up.
Jbl S3900, another horn speaker. And, JBL got the horn thing down in all price ranges.
Yeah.
And this one, which is like a largest tower speaker, it has an ease to it. Some people think that horn speakers are kind of shouty and bright. This one, no. And neither is the Heresy, by the way. I don't think of that as a bright speaker. But the JBL 3900, it's got this ease. It's seductive. It's got power to spare. When I say it can play loud without, sounding like it's straining ever.
Yeah.
Really good for movies and of course rock and roll, but also classical music. Really wonderful speaker.
Okay, cool. All right, so that was I'm getting
$10,000.
Okay, so now we're really moving up. $50,000.
$50,000. Well, this isn't quite 50,000, but the Alta Audio Titanium Hestra. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Okay.
Alta Audio?
I am familiar. I've only heard their little guys at the shows. So.
No. This is relatively large.
This is a big boy. Yeah.
And
as
it's
it should
a dipole for mid-range and tweeter, and it's just juicy and big. Spatially, it makes a huge but really incredible image. I was listening to this at a dealer in New York, and he was playing a Duke Ellington record that I've heard gazillions of times, and it just sounded so much more like live music than I have ever heard before. Just staggering how good it was.
Wow.
Knocked out.
Awesome. All right, last one. $100,000. What speaker are we buying?
What speaker would I buy? A few months ago, I wouldn't have had one that I could really feel good about, but now I do. It's an Italian company. They're just starting in the U.S. They've been around for a while, but they're just coming into the U.S. The name of the company is Diesis, Diesis. They make horn speakers with open baffle woofers and sometimes mid-ranges. And their top model is called the Roma, and it's exactly $100,000.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Perfect. There's a list, folks. So there you have it. Next question. This is officially question number 4. So
I'm exhausted already.
Yeah, right. So question number 4 would be, what makes the bigger difference, a preamplifier or a power amplifier?
You could argue either way, but I would say the bigger difference is the power amplifier, because the preamplifier is hooked up to the power amplifier, and the load that the power amplifier creates for the preamp is relatively a simple equation. Preamplifiers driving power amplifiers.
Yeah.
Fairly simple, not 100%, but the relationship between a power amplifier and a speaker is way more complex.
Yeah.
So having the right amp for the right speaker, that is fairly complicated, especially with higher end speakers. And so I would say the amp's going to make a bigger difference most of the time for that reason.
I agree with you. That's
good. I'm so glad you agree with me.
Yeah, that's been my experience, honestly, and it just kind of happened naturally as I was reviewing. As I was like, I think a power amp does make more of a difference. So yeah, we agree. Okay, so next question, kind of along the same lines, sort of. If you could only choose one integrated amplifier to live with, like, you're done, this is it. You get one, you don't get two, you don't get three. Sorry. You get one integrated amplifier. What are you going to pick?
Well, it's nice that you didn't put a price on it. I like that.
Yeah.
So then I would pick the bigger of the, I think they make two, but the bigger of the Past Labs integrated amplifier.
Okay.
Because it's more likely to drive anything. That would be the reasoning.
Okay. Beautiful. That's awesome. These next two questions are cousins, and I'm really interested to hear what you have to say on these ones. But first question number 6 is, when is digital superior to analog?
I like the when part.
I thought about these, Steve. I thought about
like
them.
Is
Nope.
Digital superior, but
when is
it superior? Ooh, that's good. Well, I should have thought about that, because I saw the questions. I wasn't thinking about the when part. Is it superior?
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly superior when you're in your car or flying to Chicago.
That's
no
true.
doubt about that.
Yeah, can't bring your turntable with you. Right.
Yeah. So you see, this is why I make the big bucks.
Yeah, right.
Because I always have an answer for something, and hopefully one that makes people laugh. I would say, seriously, I think if you're really looking for maximum dynamic range in an audiophile recording, and I specified that because dynamic range in non-audiophile recordings is almost never really there. So in an audiophile recording where you want maximum dynamic range and maximum, I was going to say realism, but I don't want to go that way. Maximum dynamic range, a digital recording would be better.
Okay.
Because it can handle extreme, from extreme quiet to extreme loud.
Sure.
But I'm hedging. But that would be it. As for analog being when, here's a snarky answer. When I'm listening to music. Analog just sounds more like music to me.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was walking around Expo asking people is, isn't it interesting, or it is interesting to me, that when I listen to a well-recorded record on a good turntable, it sounds like what I imagine high-resolution digital should sound like, but almost never does.
Yes, right.
And it's interesting that that example of analog sounding so good, digital. When digital is really great, people say it sounds like analog.
Yeah, it doesn't go the other way.
It never goes the other way.
Awesome, man. Well, you skipped ahead and you did answer that second question. So the second question that I was going to ask is when is analog superior to digital? And I completely agree with you. So
when you're listening to music,
when you're done for the day, you're relaxed, you want to put on a record. And I mean, we talked briefly about this, and I grew up listening to digital. And when I got into listening to records, something actually changed about the experience. I was no longer skipping songs looking for random stuff. It's like there was something that was now intentional about, well, it's too much of a hassle to change the dang record, so I might as well just sit here and actually listen. But it's like it's kind of interesting how that happens. But what did happen in that moment as a first time listening to vinyl is like, I was like, I'm actually enjoying this. Like, I'm enjoying not having, like, there was freedom in not searching for the next song or skipping ahead. It's like, I can relax now and kind of really soak this in. And yeah, so awesome, man. That's fantastic. Question number 8. How would Steve Guttenberg, the Audiophiliac, define good sound, and what makes a system sound right to you?
Well, kind of what we were just talking about with listening to records. I mean, good sound, I think that, I'll put it to you this way. When I sold audio, I made my living selling high-end audio for 16 years, right? And when I would talk to my customers a couple of days after they bought something, and when they would say words to the effect, oh, I stayed up all night, I was playing this record, then I had to play that record or CD or whatever, that's a bullseye. That's what good sound is. When they bought a $5,000 system or a $50,000 system, and then after they listened to it for half an hour, they said, I don't know what's on TV. What should we have going for? That's a bad system.
I'm with you.
If it doesn't pull you in, it's not good, no matter how expensive it is or what other people say about it. That is like the single most important defining character of what good sound means to me. That was the question, right? That's what it's about. But I mean, I think it being, reasonably flat and reasonably dynamic and reasonably having good separation and no brightness is going to burn your ears and not too much bass. Yeah, all that stuff is really good. But
perfect.
It's really about, does it pull you in?
Yeah, I love that answer. Thank you. Okay, so I want to talk about speaker measurements specifically. There's a lot of different measurements out there, but we're going to hone in specifically on speaker measurements. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but having watched your videos, I've noticed that you seem to be somewhat allergic to the idea of speaker measurements having much value, but I want to clarify this. Can we clarify if that only applies to personal enjoyment? Like, do you like the speaker? Do you not like the speaker? Who cares about measurements? Or are you suggesting that the manufacturers should just toss out all their measurement gear and just trust their ears and make speakers and everything will just turn out okay?
The thing is, it's a complicated question. So the part about manufacturers using measurements, I think that it depends on the manufacturer and how they measure, and most importantly, how they interpret the measurements.
Yeah.
So Andrew Jones, he started his speaker, business career at KEF.
Yeah.
And for years, I don't know how many years he was at KEF before he designed anything. His job initially was measuring things.
Right.
Measuring KEFs and measuring other companies' speakers for KEF. So he seemed to gather, get the handle on this, that how something measures is one thing. How you interpret what the measurement is telling you versus what your ears are telling you, that's an art. That's a skill.
Got it.
It's not just straight engineering, because it requires interpretation by the engineer to figure it out. Because Andrew has said to me more than once that when he designs a driver, let's say a tweeter, and he gets the prototype in and he measures it, if it doesn't measure the way he anticipated it would, the next thought is, maybe I'm not measuring it correctly. Not that there's something wrong with the driver. It might be. But he said, I'm going to try some other ways of measuring it and see where this leads me. Not like it has this peak at 8K and I got to do something about it. No, it's like it requires thought. It requires understanding, a depth of knowledge to know what a measurement means. And that's why amateurs who measure products and discover fatal flaws, who knows how they're measuring them?
Yeah.
Right? They have no basis of knowledge. So their opinions about it are kind of screwy. I think one of the most interesting things about measurements, and I wish I could say I stumbled upon myself, but I didn't, but I'm going to repeat what it is that Jude Mansella from HeadFi, it's a headphone site.
Yep.
He talked about this really interesting effect because he's got this huge community of headphone lovers, right?
Yeah.
And he says a new headphone comes out. It hasn't yet been measured by the geeks out there on the internet, right? A new headphone comes out, and people start talking about what it sounds like. Oh, I love the sound of it.
Yes.
They're going on and on about it. And then a week or two later, people start doing measurements, and then those are on the internet. And he said, and then when the measurements
this thing's awful.
Liked,
this is terrible.
Right. Then they go, oh my God, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. A week ago, before you knew how it measured, you liked it. Now that you see the measurements, you don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Sure.
Too many people out there with, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
It's scary, I've talked to a headphone designer, staying with headphones a little bit. I know you want to talk about speakers.
Yeah.
But headphones designers tell me that in the course of designing something, they see problems and they say, but it sounds better this way. We can engineer out the so-called problem, but we're losing something in the process of doing that. So maybe we should just let it go.
Awesome.
Because I think the other thing about people interpreting measurements is there's a kind of a gotcha kind of aspect to it. Like, ooh, look, they missed that.
Sure.
Like you're smarter than the guy or the woman who designed this thing.
Yeah.
I don't really think so. I'm sure it happens, but it's not usually the course of things. which leads to my problem with measurements. Isn't that speaker companies or headphone companies measure products? No, I think engineers, good engineers, can use those measurements and learn from them and make better speakers. Absolutely, positively.
Okay.
I think the problem is that when consumers reading magazines or looking at websites or a YouTube channel are distracted by measurements and conclude that product A that measures better than product B is the better sounding product.
Right.
To them, therein lies the rub. Because my way of summing this up is, right, I'm a 100% subjective reviewer, right?
Yeah.
Never measuring anything except the box size.
Yeah.
So I don't measure, right? And Steve writes a review or does a video and says, this is an incredible product, you should go and buy it, basically is the subtext, right? Then this other person on the other side is a 100% objective reviewer, measures, processes, deals with all the graphs and charts and everything, and says product A is better than product B. Now, at the end, I could recommend buying this product, and the person buys it and says, God, Guttenberg is an idiot. He got it completely wrong. Or Guttenberg is a genius. He described it perfectly, right?
Right.
It could go either way or in the middle.
Sure.
But the same for the 100% objective. It's not like because that is scientific and objective that the answer will relate to what the person buys and they will agree. They may hate the one that measures well. I mean, the perfect example of that, well, not the perfect example, but a really good example is the Sennheiser HD800, a headphone that measures extremely well.
I own them.
But a lot of people, including me, find it really kind of hard and analytical.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, right. I'm with you. I hear you. Interesting.
Okay. Sorry for the long answer.
No, it's a great answer, and I think it's a. I almost feel like we could do an entire episode talking about this, but we won't.
We just did one, I think. That was an entire episode.
Yeah. I think that topic is very interesting, and I think that you do bring up some very valid points. So thank you for clarifying your stance on that. That helps me understand kind of where your head is at and why you feel the way that you do. All right. Question number 10, last question. If you give someone getting into hi-fi for the very first time, if you could give them one piece of important advice. So they're getting into hi-fi for the first time. You want to give them one piece of important advice. What would that advice be?
Listen without multitasking. And the more someone listens intently, focused listening, whatever you want to call it, the more they will come over time to understand what kind of sound they're looking for. It requires thought, and it does require, it's like learning about, wine or cheese or something, right? You have to get into it and focus on it. I mean, if you're just, gulping down wine at a party, you're not going to probably learn a lot about wine. But if you say, I want to learn about wine, well, it requires some experience and focus attention on it, and you will start to understand what your taste is.
I love that answer.
It's not, because people always say, when I was in selling, they'd say, I want to buy something good. That was that some version of that would be the way most people describe it. But then the second question is, good to who?
Yeah.
So you have to figure out what exactly it is, and there's no, snap your fingers answer to that question. It requires listening. And if you find yourself listening and saying, I love, when I listen to music, I'm just giving an example. When I listen to music, I really focus on the singer's voice and their expressiveness and, how much they're putting into it. Okay, so you're a mid-range kind of listener, and that's really important to you, and you connect to that. And other people say, well, I like bass. I want to feel that bass pounding on
that impact.
Another guy says, I want to play music like crazy loud. I want it to be, like being at a concert. Okay, so people figure out what it is they want, not just good. They want something that's good for them.
Perfect. I love that.
What do I win? I got all the questions right.
You win a bonus question. Does pineapple belong on pizza, Steve?
No. Oh, God, no. No, I'm from New York.
No way, not a chance.
You get arrested for that.
Yeah, what the heck are you doing? Steve, thank you so much. I definitely do appreciate your time. I appreciate your experience, your knowledge, and I'm excited to get this out for our viewers, and so they can kind of get to know you a little bit better. I will leave the links in the box down below for Steve's channel, folks, so please subscribe to his channel, check him out. He posts like...
And my CNET blog.
And your CNET blog. Yeah, you post like 72 videos a day, so there's a lot to... Yeah. There's a lot to... Man, good.
A lot of me.
Good for you, man. I'm thoroughly humbled and impressed by your work ethic. But
I'm going to be impressed by how much better these things get after me. Because you'll have learned so much by doing it with me.
Well, I appreciate you, man, and thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Total pleasure.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Be well.